Good morning, everyone. It's Kinninigan. You are looking at a picture of a native Terran reptilian right here. This is an excerpt I did from the Lacerda files. I'm actually going to play this video. What you are seeing, I'm probably one of the only YouTubers I know of that actually has a video of a real native Terran reptilian. And what you're seeing is this strange hominoid seem to be going between a what appears to be human face into a reptilian face. Now this is a native Terran reptilian, and unlike Alpha Draconian reptilians, which we're not going to be talking about in this video, um, they do not shapeshift, but they have an ability that they have evolved with the use of their third eye. We're going to be talking about that in a little bit, in which they have the ability to make it appear that you are looking at a human when actually at the whole when in reality they are native Terrans. And a camera is able to pick them up in their true form because they are not able to affect the camera, although they can affect the mind of a human. This is what allows them to, if they needed to, travel among humans without being detected unless they are on film. And quite honestly, and even according to Lacerda, we'll get to that in a minute, they do not really interact with humans too often. Now, I say too often because there is some ancient proof, which we're going to get into, that there are people who get into metaphysical spiritual practices. Buddhists, it's going to be important. I'm actually going to show you a statue of a native Terran reptilian from a temple in Japan. And yes, there is mythologies within Buddhism, even in Tibet, of a ancient serpentine race that they are able to sometimes communicate with under transcendental meditation, which is something that native Terrans are actually very capable of. I'm going to be talking mainly about the old world, which was known as Maldek, the Earth in the times of Atlantis. And the native Terrans were one of the species that inhabited that planet, along with another well known species who also has a lot of quote unquote paranormal abilities. Here's a video you might not have seen, known as Sasquatch. And I don't think it's a coincidence that the existence of these two creatures, native Terran reptilians and Sasquatch, have been highly debunked or attempted to be debunked by the institutions we have in place today because, quite honestly, they are unable to control them. This goes into another idea. This is why they pump fluoride in our water that calcifies your pineal gland. They do not want quote unquote enlightened humans roaming the earth because they can't control species that have fully harnessed the powers of their third eye and extrasensory abilities, remote viewing, transcendental meditation, astral projection, the ability to now the form of shapeshifting that native Terrans use. I call it visual mimicry. That's what. So they are able. Now this is an evolutionary thing that they evolved in ancient times. And I'm going to tell you another thing right now. I always tell you to be skeptical of anyone calling reptilians lizard people because, quite honestly, native reptilians are not lizards, and alpha draconians are not lizards. In fact, they are a much older species than modern lizards. And what's even stranger about native Terran reptilians, according to Lacerda, they have a lot of evolutionary traits among their species that we thought only mammalians have evolved, such as raising their young, and we're going to talk about a few other like things that scientists have found in in history, and they try to say, oh, we can't explain this, we don't know what this is. They even come up with such excuses as, we think ancient people were just doing a lot of psychedelics and they made these statues and we can't explain it. And yeah, whatever. Say, nothing new under the sun with their excuses. So this is actually going to be a lecture about native Terran reptilians and what I know about them. Now, typically when I do lectures, I don't fill them with a lot of bloat. I'm going to go through straight facts, and what's even more amazing about this, what started out as a quote unquote conspiracy theorist has now been peer reviewed with a scientific journal from mainstream academia scientists who have finally admitted that yes, there was a pre reptilian civilization on planet Earth in ancient times. It's not a conspiracy anymore. And that actually, I have a link to it. It's a peer reviewed journal that was done in 2018. One of the links I have open right now is from Cambridge University, which actually proves that hypothesis. They call these creatures the Silurians, Silurians. I refer to them as native Terran reptilians, Terra being planet Earth, and that's kind of what I refer to them as. And yeah, they've been here a long time. So I'm going to get this out of the way. First of all, I do not monetize my videos. As many people know, I'm on my 10th YouTube channel because I've been banned multiple times. When I originally did these Lacerda files back on my original channel, I was doing better financially. I actually paid the voice actress Emma who did this Lacerda files with me. I am the only person on YouTube who has a voice acted reading of the Lacerda files. In fact, it was so good, the voice actress I hired, people actually thought I was actually talking to a real reptilian. I'm like, no, she's real, she's human. But she did such a good job as portraying Lacerda. So, yeah, please share, like, subscribe. I also, to get out of the way, I have to ask for donations. This is how I survive. I do not monetize my videos. I don't use Google AdSense. I'm I'm going to pick a number here. I'm trying to make $33 today. Why? That allows me to get some catnip. Yeah, I have no shame asking for that, and especially this isn't a rant video, which I don't actually enjoy doing those, but there's just so much going on in the world. So I figured this would be a good change of pace with everything going on because it's been a while since I've done a lecture on native Terran reptilians. And what's amazing is everything that started out as conspiracy about them has been actually being scientifically proven to be true. I'm going to show you things that are right in plain sight. Their existence is known among certain elite circles. It's even mocked. Uh, and when me and Emma read this, this was all the way back going to 2016. Yeah, it was about 2016 when we first did the reading of the Lacerda files together. We fact checked a lot of the things that Lacerda said in these Lacerda files, and we both agreed that there was no way a human wrote this. This wasn't some shit that Chat GTP came up with because this was before Chat GTP. Things that she talked about in the Lacerda files were things that most humans should have no comprehension of. She explained paranormal realms, things about the ancient history of Earth that humans are not privy to. And yes, they are fully aware of Alpha Draconian reptilians. Um, they do not get along with them. Um, Lacerda kind of doesn't actually say it in a direct way, but kind of refers to them as being a quote hostile parasitic race. And native Terran reptilians do not exactly get along with humans, but they typically are not violent towards us. You are not going to find Marduk, who's an Alpha Draconian reptilian, sitting down with a human and doing an interview about their species. Okay? So And typically, native Terrans, like I said, they live in the underworld now. When I say underworld, below the surface, um, possibly even there's supposedly large cavernous areas under the earth, cave systems and such that they inhabit now. They've moved to the underground for a few reasons. That tends to keep them blocked from occult energy. If you know anything about caves and cave systems, you cannot perform certain rituals deep inside caves because you can't tap into the electromagnetic energies. Yeah, so it's a good way. There and if you want to actually listen to the Lacerda files, the whole reading is on my YouTube channel. In fact, I'll pin it as a top comment. It's 2 hours and 17 minutes long. You can listen to it ad free. And like I said, I'm the only person on YouTube who has a fully voice acted version of this. So it isn't just me reading the whole Lacerda files in one monotone voice or using AI to read it. No, you're actually getting a female voice actress and me reading the files together. And I used to do a lot of things like this on my first Kinninigan channel because back then I had 50,000 subs. I was able to make a living just off Google AdSense, which I do not use anymore because that is the reason I lost 10 YouTube channels. Once you start taking YouTube AdSense money, that's when the community guideline strikes comes. That's when your channel gets banned off YouTube. And I haven't had a community guideline strike in 2 years. So it's not a coincidence that every day when I'm making videos, I'm telling people I need cigarette money or weed money because there's a reason for that. I do not use Google AdSense anymore, although my channel is technically monetized. You can give me a super thanks, which I got one the other day. So yeah, I do have super thanks on my videos. And if I live stream, people can super chat me. And I do have channel memberships also. So I do use some Google money to an extent, and but with the channel memberships and even super thanks, YouTube does get a 30% cut of that. I've Cash App, PayPal, Vemno's all in my description, or you can sign up to my Patreon local or locals, or I also use Buy Me a Coffee. They're all in the description. So if you want to listen to the Lacerda files, 2 hours and 17 minutes, there's a lot that she goes over in this. And after we did this, we fact checked a lot of these things she said, and they wound up being true. Which was and even after that in 2018, about 3 years after we originally read this, is when the hypothesis paper came out from mainstream academics saying yes, there was a pre-reptilian civilization in ancient times. Yeah, who's the conspiracy theorist now? And I'm not going to get too much into Atlantis in this video. I will be making another video about Atlantis. However, I do want to do some lectures this week. I'm tired of I'm trying to get away from talking about modern politics right now and everything. I just it's not healthy. Don't feed the archons. They feed off negative energy. Alpha Draconians being energy parasites, obviously. Um, but I told people that because Valentine's Day is coming up in 3 days, yeah, want to be my Valentine? Quickest way to my heart, yeah. Throw me some money in my donation. Buy me some weed. Yeah, I'll love you a long time. I'm a simple person. That's all. And but I did promise people also another lecture I will do maybe tomorrow is I will do a lecture on the goddess of love in the Greek pantheon, Aphrodite. That should be fun. Yeah, we'll talk about the origins of Cupid and Aphrodite and what that's all about. I've never done a video lecture on Aphrodite. I think I did one on Venus before, but it's basically the same goddess. So yeah, what you're looking at here in this video. Now, this is an excerpt I took from the Lacerda files and
things, but I've never learned anything about it.
scored the
I use
music,
my
and but you are looking at a native Terran Reptilian right there. And it's hard to see, and the reason why the video is so distorted is because of the camouflaging they use, and it's affecting the electromagnetic frequencies in the camera. This is where we get a lot of the liquid crystal polarization anomalies that I cover. And this is why people that are Archon possessed shift on camera all the time. In fact, the most recent video I've done of that is Erica Kirk when she mentions the word Jesus in a video and her eyes start going all crazy. Not a coincidence.
Your enemy.
However, Alpha Draconians have the ability to full-on shapeshift into another life form. Native Terrans do not shapeshift. They use visual mimicry, and this is a power that they enhanced with the evolution of of all things, their third eye. And things are going to get even more crazier. And we're going to talk a little bit about Maldek. There was a time on this planet, back in the times of Maldek, where all species had powers of their third eye unlocked. And we're going to talk about that coming back up to Sasquatch. This is why we see a lot of the same kind of abilities with Sasquatch, being able to do things that people can't explain. Those are powers of the third eye. And if you know anything about, well, a lot of them are declassified now, but like if you've seen the movie The Men Who Stare at Goats was about that. There's been declassified CIA files of them trying to actually utilize remote viewing. But like humans always do, because we are being ruled by parasitic reptilians right now, any type of new technology or skill like that we try to embrace as humans is always weaponized, which is not a good sign for human civilization. Everything that we design, every new technology, the newest weapon they're utilizing is social media itself, but that's the way these entities work. This is why humans are not in a very good place right now, and we need to get people awake to realize this. This is why everything, like every new technology, is embraced by the quote unquote the military first for obvious reasons, because they try to weaponize, and it's sad. What was the first thing they did when they figured out how to split the atom? Oh, let's build a nuclear bomb so we can kill 100,000 people in one go. Yeah, yeah, really, really great. Yeah, we're really advancing as a species, right? Sadly, that's the way the world works. And if you do have powers of the third eye, like visual mimicry, remote viewing, you will be sought out by specific government organizations. Some people refer to them as the Men in Black, and they will hunt you down. They do not want people using these abilities unless they're used for weaponized spying on our enemies or whatever. So you kind of get the idea. They don't want people who have the ability to remote view Epstein Island and see what's actually going on there, as opposed to people they can manipulate through the media and social media. See how that works? They don't want you having these abilities. And anyone who carried on this ancient knowledge of powers of the third eye, Tibet comes to mind, the Shaolin Temple. When the CCP took over China, what was the first thing they did? They invaded Tibet and they burned the Shaolin Temple down to hide a lot of these skills that were evolved, and um, they tried to put human civilization back and this is why they don't want humans developing the power of their third eyes and all that. And Lacerda goes into great detail about that in the Lacerda files. So yeah, this is the original interview of the Lacerda files that we read. I'll give you a link to this. I'll pin it as a top comment in the description. I have no problem giving people sources. Everything I say can be backed up. Shiva, you know, there's things that she goes through in here, but a few of the things I want to talk about are some of the things that explain a lot of the, I would say, oparts. Opart is a reference that refers to out of place artifacts that mainstream archaeologists find they can't explain. One of the most infamous one is the Ubaid lizard men. That is a statue of a native Terran reptilian. And you notice something. She has breasts, and she's breastfeeding her baby. Now, here's where things start to get very strange. According to Lacerda, native Terran reptilian females do have breasts, and they do breastfeed their young. They birth their young through eggs. They will only birth one egg at a time, and this is very important. And yes, they do actually raise their young. They breastfeed them, and according to Lacerda, and even this ability they have with their third eye to make themselves appear as something else, in this case, appearing human among humans, so they don't see that she is a native Terran. These are, according to Lacerda, evolutionary traits that they developed for their survival in ancient times. I'm talking about the Triassic dinosaur period. You often hear the terms in Australia, everything wants to kill you. Australia is part of the old world, ancient Lemuria. This is where the native Terrans existed in great numbers in ancient times. They coexisted with the Atlanteans and Sasquatch. I'll make another video about Sasquatch. He is another ancient race that apparently mainstream scientists can't figure out. There's a reason for that. A lot of the people that are gatekeeping the information on Sasquatch are Freemason. I don't know if you knew that. Just saying. Same thing with Dogman. And I have answers to a lot of these entities, so I guess we need to start making lectures about them. Two, so things, so that is the explanation of the Ubaid lizard men. Now here's where things get very interesting. Here we go. This is a statue of a native Terran reptilian in a temple in Japan. They are well aware of them. I don't find it a coincidence that Buddhists have statues of native Terran reptilians in their temples, specifically sitting in, these are meditative poses that they're in, because I told you, in ancient times, although the mythology's been covered up about that for obvious reasons, they claim to have encountered these entities through transcendental meditation. They're very in tune to, and this is called what is known as the middle path. That's when you develop the powers of your third eye for enlightenment. What is known as the left hand path, and this is why crazy liberals are referred to as the left, because it's satanic, it's Luciferian. Developing the power of your third eye for the use of black magic occult ritual is an alpha draconian construct. Freemason, members of secret societies, for the first amount of time that you're in there, you do these rituals that are actually made to develop your third eye, but not for enlightenment. You're doing it so you can invoke demons. Um, Now, Alpha Draconians, they are kind of the godfathers of black magic. They brought the Kabbalah to ancient Babylon. Whereas native Terran reptilians developed the powers of their third eye, and it was done for survival reasons. Like I said, in the Triassic period, where everything is trying to kill you, and life is very dangerous, you have all kinds of creatures and animals. Even you had carnivorous plants back then. Everything wanted to kill you. So, according to Lacerda, they develop these abilities so they can pass intelligence onto their young. That's how you evolve as a species, which is not a coincidence that we also see Sasquatch raising their young. Whereas a lot of Modern reptiles, and like for example, fish do it. They don't raise their young. Like a crocodile will lay a couple dozen eggs in a nest, and all the eggs hatch, and all the little baby crocodiles come out. But maybe like five out of 100 of them will actually make it to full adulthood. Whereas humans, like us, we typically have one baby at a time where we raise our children, we impart our wisdom onto them. This is why it's not a coincidence that the evil elite controlling the planet right now, they attack our children of all things, because that's how you basically tear down a civilization. Because to evolve as a civilization, you need to impart your knowledge and expertise and wisdom onto your children. This is how you evolve as a species. And according to Lacerda, one of the things they did was they evolved the ability to breastfeed their young because it was safer for them, so they could raise their young, because obviously babies are not going to easily make it. You know, when you have dinosaurs and large, there were all kinds of crazy creatures going. In the Triassic period, you're familiar with the Jurassic period from obviously Jurassic Park. The Triassic period is older than that, meaning they come from a species of serpents known as rhinocephalia, and they predate modern lizards. And what's even more bizarre is we have one of their relatives living today on New Zealand, of all things. I'll show you that in a minute. So yes, that is a native Terran reptilian. What the other thing you'll notice about this native Terran reptilian? This is a male. The males obviously do not have breasts, but they have crescents on their head. If you notice this one here in the video, he also has crescents on his head. This is a male. And you'll see what's bizarre is you'll see the distortion through the video where it looks human and then it's shifting on video. That's because their visual mimicry cannot fool cameras, and there's a lot of electromagnetic stuff that's getting messed up in the video there. Now, as much as I have about the source of this video, when I got a hold of it, was it supposedly was filmed in, I believe, the 90s, somewhere around Russia. It's obviously filmed on a not the greatest camera, but someone did film it, and the shifting is just bizarre. And Lacerda explains that, yeah, this is visual mimicry. So if they had to come among humans, and they do come to the surface time to time, they do. Not bizarre. Humans, we travel in caves. You know, you have people who explore caves all the time. Why wouldn't they come up to the surface sometimes? And when they do this, they do have the ability to camouflage themselves. Sasquatch has another ability. Now, Sasquatch has also been supposedly, according to some Sasquatch encounters, some people swear that Sasquatch would make themselves appear as like a deer, an elk, or a bear to people sometimes do, or they could just use a type of camouflage where they can, kind of like what the Predator did in the Predator movies, where they can become kind of invisible. Or obviously, there's the theory that Sasquatch can travel through interdimensional portals at will, which and that's just all developed things from a developed third eye. So I don't find it a coincidence that ancient species, who did live in the time of velociraptors and other dinosaurs and everything that wanted to kill you, also had these advanced abilities of the third eye. So, and what it seems they mainly used it for was types of camouflage, so they can survive. This is why the female native Terrans have the ability to breastfeed their young, so they can keep them safe and raise them. That's an evolutionary trait, obviously, because it's very hard. Yeah, I think you get the idea. Having the ability to breastfeed your young is a good way to keep your young safe and healthy and raise them rather than having to go out and hunt. So, and that's kind of why they made these evolutionary traits. So, like I said, you need to throw everything out the window what you've been taught about mainstream science about quote unquote lizards, or don't take anyone serious that tries to debunk reptilians and they start off by saying crazy shit like lizard people, because these are not lizards. They're serpentine. They do not have scales. There was a documentary done on the. Oh, we'll talk about that in a second. There was a documentary done on the BBC, and I can't find it anymore. But the BBC, about 20 years ago, did a documentary about what if there were dinosaur humanoids that evolved. And this was the depiction that they had on the BBC. You see it right over here, where, yeah, they're serpentine. They're not scaled like modern reptiles, but they are serpentine. And they have one of the most important things that evolves you as a species: opposable thumbs, because that allows you to start using tools. So, yeah, we see this guy, he's got a satchel around him, he's using tools. Looks like he has a spear in his hand to hunt with, and probably has some other amazing abilities. Now, one of my favorite subjects is mysto-synchronism. Going back to the 70s, there was an infamous show on TV called Land of the Lost. What did that show involve? It involved a interdimensional species of reptilians known as the Sleestaks, a Sasquatch-like being known as Shaka, humans who got there because they went through a time portal, and dinosaurs, all living together. You want to talk about symbolism right in front of your face. And what was interesting about the Sleestaks is they had the ability to travel through dimensions. Very interesting. So yeah, there was definitely some strange symbolism going on with that show. Now here's where things get even more bizarre. According to Lacerda, skeletons, yes, skeletons of all things, and there's probably some, found all the time, are found by people hunting archaeologists. Now, for example, um, Zionist run institutions, let's just say that, academia. There's a reason why they fund these digs that people do for dinosaurs, because you're going to find stuff and they don't want the public to know about it, and they're going to force you to not admit the truth. However, a lot like Luciferians do, they like to put the symbolism right in front of your face and mock you with it. And according to Lacerda, our scientists did this. They have found skeletons of native Terran reptilians in digs. They're out there, and they knew it, and they couldn't explain it. So what they try to do is, according to Lacerda, they built dinosaurs in certain museums that were built from the parts of native Terran reptilians, in which they put a new dinosaur together. One is called the iguanodon. And there was a few reasons for that. One, if you discovered a new species of dinosaur, you were allowed to name it. So scientists would put together new dinosaurs out of skeleton parts they found just to name a new dinosaur. But most importantly, according to Lacerda, they wanted to mock us with their knowledge of native Terrans. So they built an iguanodon skeleton, and they used the arms and hands of native Terran reptilians. And this may be why we have this skeleton of what is known as a T Rex. And strangely, T Rex has these little arms that seem to, like, what are they there for? Like, what is T Rex doing with these little arms? Here's where things get strange. This is a skeleton from the British Museum of an iguanodon. And Lacerda was 100% right. I want you to notice something here. Look at the arms. This dinosaur has thumbs, but they're shaved down to nubs. According to the archaeologists who put these skeletons together, those nubs were a weapon that iguanodons used to kill their prey, which is absolute BS. No, that was a thumb. This whole entire arm right here is a native Terran Reptilian's arm. And yes, they were bigger than modern humans, and for obvious reasons, everything was bigger back then because there was more oxygen in the atmosphere. This is why the dinosaurs were bigger. This is why insects were bigger. And yeah, so that is a native Terran reptilian arm right in plain sight on an iguanodon. They shaved down the thumbs to make it look like a nub. Yeah. And Lacerda actually says this in the Lacerda files as a way for our modern academia to mock us with the knowledge they had because they're going on these dinosaur digging sites and finding native reptilian skeletons. There may even be a possibility that some of the strange skulls that they found throughout history that they can't explain, they say they're deformities or whatever. Some of them might actually be native Terran skulls. Also, I don't have any of those pulled up right now but I do know for a fact that Lacerda does mention this and saying that yeah, these are native Terran reptilian arms that they put on iguanodon skeletons and try to say that yeah, this is a dinosaur we found when this is probably put together from multiple different species of dinosaurs. And if you did not know, a lot of the skeletons in museums are not full skeletons. A lot of them are made with casts, where they try to like the missing bones they don't have. They try to put together, and this is what they do. And in the case of the iguanodons, you look at those are arms with hands and thumbs. So when me and Emma fact checked that after the Lacerda files, we were like, "Wow, she wasn't kidding." Like this is so. Here's where things start to get very strange. This is a he's not a lizard, although it looks like a lizard. This is a serpent. We'll just say lizard, reptile, reptile. We'll say called the tuatara. It's only found on New Zealand, which is part of ancient Lemuria, or Mu as it's called. And what's amazing about this species it predates modern lizards. It is in a the correct name for this is rhinocephalia. Now, what does that mean, rhino? You've heard of the term rhinoplasty. That's nose surgery. Basically, it means beaked. Now, when I say beaked, I'm not talking like a bird. What I mean by beaked is looking at this statue again. Look at the face of the native Terran reptilian. It kind of goes down into a beak shape. That's what it's referring to. So it's now this is my theory that these native Terrans evolved from the same species of serpents that the tuatara did. What's more amazing about the tuatara? Well, they may look like modern lizards, but they're a lot different. One, like I said, they're only found in New Zealand. Two, they live to be 100 years old, which is pretty amazing. And three, these lizards have active third eyes. They have active third eyes. And science, we can't explain it. Yeah, I'm getting sick of that excuse all the time. We can't explain it. We don't know why this lizard on New Zealand, not predating modern lizards, has a active third eye. That's because all creatures, supposedly, in the times of Maldek, all had active third eyes. And we'll get into that in a second. Things get even more strange with that. Um, so, what else is interesting about these tuatars is they live to be close to 100 years old. They do not have to bake in the sun like modern lizards do. In fact, they prefer cooler environments, which is very interesting. Now, here's where things get very interesting with this lizard. They may just lay a single egg. Now, that's interesting. This lizard lives to 100 years old. They only lay a single egg. Every other lizard and most modern reptiles lay multiple eggs. And that goes back to the what I was telling you about passing your intelligence onto your young, whereas snakes, amphibians like frogs, they'll lay eggs, and there'll be like 10,000 tadpoles that go out into the pond. And now those 10,000 tadpoles, maybe only a few make it to adult frog life. That's kind of the idea of a lot of fish and modern reptiles is sadly, we're just going to lay a few dozen eggs and hopefully a few of them make it to adulthood and spread on the species. But the tuatara lays a single egg. Interesting. According to Lacerda, native Terran reptilians also lay single eggs. Uh, wait. It says, up to 19. Okay. I was wrong about that. They do lay multiple eggs sometimes. Sometimes humans have twins, even triplets. But it's a smaller amount than most modern lizards do. I would say probably a good example of that is cats with kittens. A litter can be anywhere from like 2 kittens to 8 sometimes. Depends. And what else do cats do? Yeah, they feed their young, breastfeed them. Uh, so yeah, this is a very strange. Yeah, they're famous for their third eye. Yeah, why do they have third eyes? All right, this is where things really start to get strange. So, in the times of Atlantis, this is a link I have here from something about Maldek, but this is what I want to show you. This image right here is a representation of something, and I'll tell you what you're looking at. In the times of Maldek, it was theorized that all creatures, native Terran reptilians, the Atlanteans, Sasquatch, a lot of the animals, we know that dolphins are capable of it today, whales are capable of it. That's and what this is a reference to silver tongue. And the reason why um, you'll often hear about a phrase in ancient mythology, if you're familiar with it, going like especially in ancient Greece, called Cyclopean. Now, Cyclops is not exactly what you think. The single eye is a reference to the pineal gland, not just having a single eye. This goes into the idea that in ancient times on Maldek, all creatures were able to communicate with each other through an advanced language known as silver tongue. And by using telepathy, they were all able to communicate with one another. Sasquatch shows these abilities today with the ability to mind speak with entities. People that come in contact with Sasquatch say that these Sasquatch have the ability to talk to them telepathically, which is not a coincidence. So, what you'll notice, and then he has the tongue coming out here, that they were all able to communicate with each other through something called silver tongue. Now, I am going to have to mention Alpha Draconian reptilians, obviously, as an example for this, but what do we get in Babylon? We get the Tower of Babel, which is when they confuse the languages Also, in conjunction with not allowing us to develop the power of our third eye as humans, so that they can confuse our language, so we would not be able to communicate with one another. And that was for a lot of reasons. We can't pass on stories to one another about ancient mythology. The people that cannot communicate with one another are easier to manipulate. In fact, we see that going on in modern times, don't we? And this is where we ultimately get the mocking tongue of Lucifer, which is also the symbol of the Rolling Stones. That's not a coincidence. So this is silver tongue. Now, silver is a very interesting element because I'll get more into silver when I do the video lecture about Atlantis and what or who the Atlanteans were. I'll give you a clue. We have iron-based blood. I think the Atlanteans had silver-based blood. And what would happen if you had silver-based blood? Your skin would be blue. That's all I'm going to say for now. Um, Now, here's where things no longer become conspiracy theorists, and I will pin this as one of the top comments also. So you have links for everything I'm telling you here. You can watch the Lacerda files. This is the Silurian hypothesis. This is an academic peer-reviewed journal that came out 10 April 2018, which was done by the NASA Goddard Institute for Space Studies, the Department of Physics and Astronomy, the University of Rochester. Here's another link from Cambridge University, known as the Silurian. And when they say Silurian, they are talking about a reptilian hominoid species. Now, the reason why, here's what I'm going to say. When humans think about technology, we're not looking for the right things, or what we consider technology is not what an evolved species would be using. If you notice, Sasquatch is not using smartphones, he's not using computers, he's not driving cars. Who needs a car when you have the ability to open an interdimensional portal and travel anywhere you want at will? Yeah, it kind of negates the need for a car now. You want to talk about zero carbon footprint? Yeah, Sasquatch is the OG of living environmental friendly. So, yeah, probably another reason they hate them. Um, so, what we consider technology is not exactly what technology is. Native Terrans, I don't think they built huge metropolis cities as we think of them. And I'm willing to bet they were a lot more adapted just to live with the environment than what we consider modern human civilization. Which, and if you notice, our modern human civilization leaves a nasty footprint on planet Earth. All the mining, drilling, oil, this destroys Mother Earth. Whereas it's apparent that native Terran reptilians, the Atlanteans, Sasquatch, all lived in perfect harmony with Mother Nature, which is not a coincidence. And it appears that they did not kill other species for sport. They only hunted what they needed to eat and survive, which is what we see kind of Sasquatch doing. And the reason I keep bringing up Sasquatch, obviously it's apparent that we have more contact with Sasquatches than we do with native Terran reptilians, simply for the fact that humans spend a lot more time out in the forest than we do in cave systems. Just saying. And even if you were able to encounter a native Terran reptilian in a cave system, there have been accounts where people have gone deep into caves and supposedly have encountered humans living there. You want to know where I'm going at with that one? Who's to say they weren't native Terrans they ran into who made themselves appear human? Yeah, there's stories. I don't know if you heard them about miners encountering humanoids inside caves where they shouldn't have been. So I don't think that's a coincidence either. And the more that things tend to go on, it's like with the like I said, they finally in 2018 they finally pulled their head out of their asses and admitted, yeah, there was probably a reptilian advanced hominoid species on planet Earth that evolved alongside the dinosaurs. But according to them, they went quote unquote extinct. They didn't go extinct. They're just hiding. And guess what? They weren't the only advanced hominoid species on planet Earth either. There was Sasquatch and a few other ones that I will do other lectures about. The ancient world was, you may look at it as something right out of science fiction, but yeah, maybe it wasn't. And obviously, there's been a huge, they don't want us to know our true history. Obviously, they won't even admit. Look the pyramids of Giza for. We all know the Atlanteans built the pyramids. Okay, there's no question about that. And all the bullshit excuses they gave over the years about who built the pyramids and how they were built, they can't explain. Yeah, but what is interesting is in Babylon, as well as the Aztec and Maya temples, we have step pyramids, which means the reptilians, the Alpha Draconians, tried to replicate the pyramids, but they couldn't. So they made step pyramids known as ziggurats because that's all they were capable of doing. They did not have the architectural and engineering ability that the Atlanteans did. Not a coincidence. Same reason why you see a lot of these Luciferian, I'm saying, I'd hate to call them all evil. They've been brainwashed, we'll say that, but what I mean is a lot of these quote unquote modern liberal like writers and producers out in Hollywood now can't make movies for that people want to watch anymore. They're trying to mimic what has been done before them by better people, like Amazon's Lord of the Rings TV show. Look at that compared to the one Peter Jackson made. Um, and that's kind of what we see going on in modern culture right now. It's like Luciferians can't do anything. They can't. They try, just like the Babylonians couldn't replicate the pyramids. They tried to, and the best they could do was step pyramids. This is why it's not a coincidence that the Aztec also have step pyramids that look exactly like Sumerian ziggurats, and they were built to worship who? Quetzalcoatl, the plumed serpent. So yeah, they've been obviously trying to hide a lot of this knowledge, and so all these links will be in the description. Like I said, I don't try to fill these lectures with too much bloat, and I will give you links. Yeah, we have native Terran arms put on the iguanodons in museums. And there are other things that Lacerda talks about in these Lacerda files that are very interesting. And the more you look into it, the more she winds up being correct about a lot of them, including some of the UFOs that we encounter today are actually native Terran UFOs. Yeah, they have evolved to that ability. They understand gravitational anti-gravity technology. They know how to utilize it, according to her. And what do humans do? Well, if we get anti-gravitational technology, what do? They want to weaponize it, classify it, so we can make top secret UFOs at Area 51, so we can kill other humans with them and make stealth bombers. Yeah, it's a pretty pathetic state of human civilization we're in when every new technology needs to be weaponized as a fancy way to kill other humans. This is why I keep telling you you're not being ruled by humans. Right. And yes, Lacerda does admit to the existence of the Alpha Draconians in this as an invasive species that destroyed the old world. So they don't get along. And native Terrans are not abducting humans, they're not hostile to humans. They kind of have the same relationship that kind of Sasquatch has. They don't want to bother with us. It's kind of like, leave us alone. We won't bother you. Kind of the same attitude that Sasquatch have. And I don't think that's a coincidence. So, anyway, all the links will be in the description. Again, if you want to support the channel, I'm just throwing a number out there. I need about $33 today. That'll get me by for a few days. Come on, I'm going to give you a lecture about Aphrodite tomorrow. Make it worth my while. Um, yeah, if I'm going to cover any pagan goddess, that's going to be the one I don't mind doing because I love the idea of being in love. Who doesn't? And besides, that's the last Greek god that the elites like invoking. They like invoking chaos all the time. So I wonder why. So yeah, I will do a lecture about Aphrodite and Cupid and that whole mythology and like things that you might not have known. Do you know that the heart, the modern heart that you think of, you know what that is? Well, we know it's not a human heart because that's not what a human heart actually looks like. That is a female butt. That is a female bent over. That's what the modern heart represents. The more you know. So yeah, I'm gonna have to. I'll decode all your Valentine's Day symbolism for you. I'll also tell you the origins of the mythology of the rose. That's a Masonic secret going into something called Tantric alchemy. I'll explain the rose symbolism, the heart symbolism, Cupid, the idea of why Cupid fires quote unquote arrows into people to make them fall in love, and we'll go over all that. And I'll do that either tomorrow or the day after that. Anyway, hope you enjoyed my little lecture here. I don't like to keep these over an hour. Like I said, I like to keep them simple. Um, so I'm looking at the timer here. Yeah, it's been about an hour. This should be good. All the links will be in the description if you want to support my channel. PayPal, Cash App, Vemno's all in the description. You can buy me a coffee. You can super thanks me. Best way to get money to me immediately is Cash App, PayPal, and Vemno for obvious reasons. I'm a simple person. I don't really want to be on YouTube all day watching videos about everything that's going on. I'm getting to the point I can't take it anymore. You know where my happy place is because I'm not married. I have cats, yeah, I do, but um, I play video games, and I'm not afraid to admit it. Some of my subs are on my Steam account. Some of my subs gift me video games. In fact, I'm playing a video game right now that was gifted to me by one of my subs for Christmas. Um, so that's what I'd like to do today. Yeah, it's escapism, but it's kind of my joy. Yeah, I play video games. Big deal. Could have worse habits. I don't gamble. I don't hang in bars anymore. I don't gamble. I don't really have that much of a social life. But I enjoy playing video games, and I enjoy weed because it helps with my ADHD and keeps my blood pressure down. And again, I don't monetize these videos. You can watch them ad free. I'll pin a link to the Lacerda files in the description, and also a link to the this right here, the Silurian hypothesis, where mainstream academia is actually saying, you know what, Kinninigan was right. You called him a conspiracy theorist that covered lizard people, but you know what? He might have been right. Yep, the truth does not require your approval. Remember that. Anyway, any questions or comments, leave them below. God bless and take care.